Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be talking about our top 10 rookie IDP Dynasty rankings with tiers. And with us today is a special guest making his first appearance with Front Office Pros, which is none other than SC Romero. SC is the co-owner of the Fantasy Football Universe. SC, thanks so much for joining the show today.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me on. I love IDP and talking some ball, and with some two great heads here, let's get into it and see where we match up and see where we disagree. Excited to talk about it.
Hike.
Most definitely, SC, and this is pre-draft, so obviously these landing spots could matter how these players' value is going to be. But for now, we're going to tell you what we think. So we're going to start off with Tier 5. Joe, who do you got?
Yeah, so for my Tier 5, I've got one player in it, and that is going to be Jeremiah Trotter Jr.
I thought about him too, honestly. Their legacy prospect. I think he's a great athlete, and he's gonna be someone that's gonna make a threat. I actually have two guys here. Both of them, one's a safety, one's a defensive back. But I think when it comes to IDP, those are hard to adjust because sometimes they could be shutdown corners or anything like that, and you don't really get the ball towards them. But I have Tyler Nubin, just a guy that can line up everywhere, a guy that's all over the field, could get some tackles, proved it last year, 12 interceptions over the last 3 seasons. And then Keon Mitchell from Toledo. I think he's going to be a top 20 pick. Plus someone that, again, that can line up everywhere. And the biggest thing about him is over the last 2 seasons, or last season, he had less than 7% missed tackle rate, where the past 2 he had over 10%, I think like 12.5. So just going in there, I think he's going to be someone that's going to be a dog for the teams, and he's going to be one of your cornerbacks that gets tackles for him.
Future Denver Bronco, SC, is what I've been telling Joe the whole time.
Maybe.
All right, guys, I'm going to pull in a shocker here. I don't know if you guys are going to like it. Number 10, I've got Chop Robinson, edge rusher. And then number 9, I've got linebacker Edgerrin Cooper. Now, I know, I got him pretty low, but I got to tell you guys, I'm a little concerned about this guy. I think that he the talent shows, but I just wonder if he's going to be positionless in the NFL. I think he's kind of a tweener. He did really well on the edge. He's very athletic, but I think he's going to have to bulk up if he's going to play middle linebacker and the inside linebacker. And in IDP specifically, you're going to want a guy who's going to rack up tackles. So I think for me, he's very landing spot dependent. I think, depending on where he goes, I could see Cooper rise quite a bit. But for me, I'm just a little bit nervous because those type of players don't always transcend to the NFL.
That's fair. I have him higher, but you bring up some good reasonings there for him. He's definitely, I think he's a threat off the edge. And you brought up a good point in tackles, and I think he'll make up for that with sacks that he can potentially get. But he's one, the bulk up and the landing spot, definitely do become a factor for him.
Yeah, and I was taking a look around some of my different IDP rankings, and even without landing spot, Steve, I feel like this guy has been rising and is generally towards the top of a lot of people's IDP rankings for these rookies.
Oh, he definitely is. And that's why for me having him this low, I could be having some tomatoes thrown at my face here for this because that is not a popular pick. Same with Chop Robinson. Chop Robinson is one of the, I think probably you guys probably both have him a few picks higher than I do. My main reason for him is he's so raw. I mean, he's just a speedster on the edge, and maybe this is wrong of me, but should I be a little nervous about Penn State edge rushers? I mean, Jason Oweh didn't have a sack. What did he really do in the NFL? He's been a disappointment. Arnold Ebiketie, this guy's going to be good. It's like, I don't know what it is. You got like Iowa tight ends, and you got Penn State edge rushers. Right? I don't know. Like, is he just destined to be a disappointment?
I have him in the next tier, but because of that speed, I think that's where it's going to be there. But great points as well. I think he can get off the edge pretty quickly. He knows how to wrap up effectively to get to that quarterback as well. It's hard because in this class, I feel your defensive end and edge rushers are good. They're at the college level. There are some great guys that can get off the edge and get that pressure. But when we're talking about fantasy IDP, tackles become an issue, and then it's the sacks. Sacks you can get a lot of points for depending on what your league is, or even tackles for loss, right? So that's where I think he comes. I don't see him getting, over 40, 50 tackles, but I think he could get close to 8 sacks and maybe, 6 or 7 tackles for loss, something like that within a season, just because of that explosiveness that he has. And I think the combine definitely raised him up a lot more on the NFL side. So he may get that draft capital where it becomes, okay, we at least had to give you a shot, So down the line, we'll see what he can do. But he is someone that, for his size, I mean, kid can move. So I think that's going to show off for a lot for these NFL scouts that are looking at him, and he'll get an opportunity to shine.
Yeah, my main problem with him is I just think he's a one-trick pony. He can run right outside the edge and use his speed, but other than that, he's got the chop. That's why he's called Chop Robinson. He's got the chop, to get the quarterback. But other than that, I think Chop's going to have to, go back in the kitchen and kind of get a couple different pass rush moves. I think he's going to do better. But Joe, you've been kind of quiet on just Chop Robinson. What do you have to say? And I want to get your thoughts too. I don't have Trotter at all in my top 10. I had him in my top 12 before, not anymore. I want to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I mean, first with Chop Robinson, I got him a little bit higher, so I can talk about him there. But I just felt like I had to put him where I have him, just with that speed and the potential. And as far as him just being another Penn State edge rusher, I think that is fair. But I'm hoping that Chop Robinson will actually break through and not follow the trend that's been being sent by these prior edge rushers out of Penn State. But for Jeremiah Trotter Jr., I'd considered putting a safety or DB in there, but I really just kept linebackers, edge rushers, defensive tackles, and felt like Trotter was deserving to be in my 10th spot. I know he's got, the issues with some missed tackles and everything, but I just feel like, with his bloodlines and he's got the skills to be that off the ball linebacker still, that he deserved to be in my tier 5.
Yeah.
Now, I may be getting ahead of myself, and if I am, then you call me off here, SC. You said Keon Mitchell is in your top 10. Do you also have another defensive back in Cooper DeJean?
Yeah, he's in the next tier for me.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna park it and we're gonna go on to the next tier. So Joe, why don't you start us off here? What do you got in tier 4?
All right, in tier 4, I've got Byron Murphy, Junior Colson, and Jerzon Newton.
Very nice. I got Chop Robinson, who we spoke on already. And then, that's where I got Cooper DeJean. I think that's a guy that, again, a versatile one. He lined up mostly as your cornerback, but he can be anywhere as well. He had a down year compared to his 2022 year, but in 2022, he had 59 solo tackles, 75 total tackles, 5 interceptions, and 3 touchdowns. If that translates anywhere close to NFL productivity, you're winning. I mean? Like, that's just a great all-around guy. And, I know in the green room we were talking about, like, the cornerbacks, you don't really want that shutdown guy. He allows 43.5%, completion, no TDs or anything, but he's such a ball hawk, man, and he just has natural ball tracking skills that I think he's still going to find his presence there. Maybe not solo tackles, but he'll definitely get you some assisted tackles. And I think that's going to transition well for him. He's going to be one of those cornerbacks that gets you some big plays based on interceptions. Maybe if your IDP league does pass deflections, he'll be there too. But I also think he's someone that he can get sideline to sideline and get to the other side of the field and get you a tackle as well. So I have him in that tier.
I think he could be a Swiss Army knife. I don't have him on my top 10, but I don't blame you for having him because I do think that he's a dynamic defensive player. He played, he could play safety, could play outside, could probably even play a little, probably sparingly inside. So I think landing spot's going to be big for him because I want to see. I would personally like to see him go with a team, either a head coach or a defensive coordinator that is really savvy, that will know how to use him. Otherwise, it's like we're not going to get all the juice out. You know what I mean? Right. Like you're gonna leave a lot left, and I don't want that to happen because I think he's just got a lot of talent.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so for my 2 players in this tier, I'm pretty sure that you guys are not going to have this guy in here, so buckle up. Number 8, I've got. He could be considered an edge, but I'm looking at him as a defensive tackle, which is Darius Robinson. And then 7, safety Tyler Nubin. Darius Robinson, a guy for me that I have, he is, in my view, not just me, I think others would say he's been a huge riser, did really well in the Senior Bowl. has performed really, really well in every step of the way at the combine, at his pro day. Guy is super athletic. I think, you could say he's a tweener, and that could be a concern, but I think his versatility of being able to play inside and outside, I think could help him. The one concern with him is that he had the great season that he did in Missouri this past season as an edge, where I'm thinking he's going to translate more as a defensive tackle. But if he can, I think he could be really dynamic. The team that personally I would, and maybe I'm wrong about this, but the fit for me that I think would be perfect for him, and nobody's talking about, I feel like, is the Miami Dolphins. I think he'd be a type of player who I think would actually be a better replacement for a Christian Wilkins than a guy like, Byron Murphy, who a lot of people will match up with Miami, or even a Jerzon Newton. I think that because Darius Robinson is so strong, he's such a powerful rusher. He's great at the run game. The reason why Wilkins was so good was not because of the sacks, but because he was having 100 tackles a season. So to me, to fill, it takes a certain type of defensive lineman to replace that talent. So I think it's possible he could be in that range, but to me, that's a team fit that I absolutely love. The other guy, number 7, I've got safety Tyler Nubin. And I'm with you, SC. I'm a big Newman fan. He doesn't show it off in his athleticism. He didn't, you look at his RAS score. It wasn't that great, and that definitely probably hurt his stock. I thought he was probably going to be a first rounder. I think he's now going to be a second rounder. I don't even know if any safeties that will be taken in the first round in this NFL draft, but he's got it between the ears. He is he's a ball hawk. He knows where to be. I think that he's a guy that I'm really excited about. I think that he's a little under the radar, to be honest.
What I think off the top, if he goes to a good spot and gets his shot, he can have like a Jalen Petrie type year where people don't talk about him as much, and then all of a sudden he's 100+ tackles. So I love that pick there. I think he'll be great. Darius Robinson to Miami. That's a smooth pick. I like that. Because he's someone that he can go in there and start out the gate too. And as you mentioned, replacing Christian Wilkins, like a lot of people think it's gonna be a veteran or so. Watch out, because I know the fantasy football community wants them to get Wardy in the first round, which, why not, right? You have the speedsters there and stuff like that, but Darius Robinson has improved, and he's climbing up those draft ranks as well. So that would be a nice fit for him, because I think that's a smooth transition to just keep going and continue your rise out the gate, and you're surrounded by some veterans that have been in the league, so you can definitely learn more.
Now, Joe, you had a couple defensive tackles in this tier. You mentioned Jerzon Newton and Byron Murphy. A little surprised that you had him here. What made you had him in this spot? And Junior Colson, who I talked about before as a top 12 guy, and you were like, what are you doing? Why is he in the top 12? He won't even be there on third down.
Yeah, I looked into some things, Steve, and looked around and, decided that I take the loss on that one, and I decided to throw him in here, and I think he could be better.
Wow.
I think that he does have potential to be in the pass coverage, where before when we were talking, you're right. I thought he was just more of that run stuffer guy, just going to play first and second down, potentially go off. But, I've been reading some things. Other people do view him as a 3-down linebacker with some good coverage skills. So made me change my mind and threw him on here.
Wow. That's interesting coming from a Michigan fan. I was not expecting that about face from you.
Yeah, I am a Michigan fan, but decided to have a change in heart there, Steve.
And what was your reasoning on Newton Murphy, where you had him?
I just like their upside from the defensive tackle position, especially being that they're both guys that get after the quarterback and get the sacks. And in the IDP, especially if you play in the big play scoring, similar to what we play, Steve, those sacks are big. So I just feel like I really like their upside from the defensive tackle.
All right, so why don't we head over? Oh, go. Do you have something else to say, SC?
No, yeah, I would say, that's, number one rule in fantasy is know your leagues, right? Know your scoring. But that's a big part. If your league is heavy in scoring, looking at those defensive linemen will be more than looking at a safety that could get 80 plus tackles or something like that. So I like that reasoning and knowing where you're at with these guys, because that matters, right, based on your league.
But I going back to Darius Robinson, Steve, I considered throwing him on there.
Did you now?
I did. I was playing around with him, possibly at 10. Decided to go Jeremiah Trotter Jr., but definitely he was on my radar.
That's good to hear. Was he on your radar, SC?
Yeah, he would have been like tier 5. I have his name down here as someone when I was looking through my tier 5s. Like when we talk about the tier 5, I feel there's so many guys you can put in there, but we said top 10. So I just think there's when we get to the higher tiers, there's other guys I would put over him in like the edge category too. So
well, I will say this is a very interesting class for IDP. I've been in a league now that we've had IDP with it for the past 5 years. This probably to me is the most shallow IDP class I think I've seen yet. I mean, you're hearing that there may be a record for the most offensive players taken in the first round. This goes to show you. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying the defensive talent is lacking. It may just be that the offensive talent is just more overpowering. Mm-hmm. I don't know which it is. But I think the offensive is strong, but I just think the defense is just. I don't think it's as strong.
I think the defense there's bigger teardrops than what some of these, like the wide receiver class is so deep where you have some teardrops, but they're not as deep as you may think, right? Like I think there's some great guys that you can get with 4th round capital, that you can get in your 3rd round of your rookie mugs and stuff like that for offense. But with defense, I think that you have your top guys, and then there's a significant drop to the next group too.
So heading over to tier 3, Joe, who do you got?
Yeah, in my tier 3, just solo guy again, and that's going to be Chop Robinson.
I have Jerzon Newton and Peyton Wilson here in my tier 3.
Interesting. All right, so for me, I've got one solo guy, and it's Laiatu Latu for number 6 for me. I'll start off for my defense as to why I have him here. To me, and I've been saying this every time I've been talking IDP on the pod, so we'll see if you agree as other guests. I don't think many guests, actually one took offense to what I had to say. So, but to me, he's AJ Epinesa. To me, that's how I see him. I think that he maybe has that same trajectory where people thought that he could be. He's a great technician. I will say that. I would say he's got great hand usage. I think he's got pass rush moves. I think he can be a great pass rusher. He doesn't have that bend. He doesn't have that, in my view, he doesn't have that raw athleticism that really can just take over. And so to me, I don't know if he'll ever become this 10-plus sack guy. I just don't see it. That's why I kind of view him as an Epinesa type. So, and not to mention the medical red shirt. There hasn't been a lot mentioned about it, which I'm actually kind of surprised. I thought there'd be more to be talked about, but it might just be a thing on draft night where Adam Schefter comes on and says, well, Laiatu, he had a medical red shirt, and that's why he's slipping down the board and he's in round 2. You always hear those type of players like, why isn't this guy taken? That one's a little bit more like known. Like, if you're into the NFL in general, I feel like you have to be under a rock, if you didn't know about that and looking at the different players. But that's my take on Latu. I'm sure you guys have him. You guys haven't said him, so he's probably a lot higher for you guys.
Yeah, 100%. He's in my tier 1.
He's in my tier 1 as well, Steve.
Oh boy, yeah. Slanderous by me then. Slanderous.
But that makes sense. I think the injury is a big concern. You mentioned that raw athleticism. His wingspan stone, what he can do with his hands is, he does have that dip to get around or to swim around your defenders, possibly get up and gain a pass deflection. I just think he can disrupt an offense on so many different avenues where that's going to be the benefit of him. Is he someone that can take over a game? I think he can. I think there are some tackles that can get the best of him. But his moves and his footwork, for how big he is so great that he can adjust how he needs to do. And like I said, just use his hands effectively. Which at the line, especially on the edge, you have to be able to get against these 6'7", 6'8" blockers, right? So I think that's where he's going to benefit there. for Peyton Wilson, I think, Wilson may be this first linebacker off the board. And honestly, he may be what we thought Jack Campbell was going to be, in his rookie campaign. Just a speed guy that could get up and down the field, excellent ball tracking skills, can run stop as well. And then Newton, I think he's just someone that the right coach will play him all around the line, not just a defensive tackle. They'll play him on the edge. They'll play him or a defensive end, I guess, if you don't want to say edge, but just all around. And wherever he is, he's just someone that for fantasy, it may not seem great, but he's going to cause us double teams, right? But because of that, he's still going to be able to get some plays too, because he's going to end up getting other guys open, and yet they're going to have to go, oh, snap, we got to forget these guys. Now we got to come over here. He's just such a versatile defensive lineman, and I think he's going to be someone we talk about to get consistent sacks and just be effective,
Joe, what do you like about Chap Robinson? You mentioned him in this tier.
Yeah, I mean, like we said before, I just like his potential for his speed rush, and I get your point, Steve, that he doesn't have a lot of pass rush moves, but he is only 20 years old, and he's got time to develop some additional pass rush moves, in which he does with the speed that he has. Then he becomes, a potential lethal guy that really could be looking at multi sacks.
So real quick, do you think that he would benefit from maybe like a New Orleans Saints kind of sitting behind a guy like Cam Jordan, learning under him, and then next year step because of his, his raw ability and his youth? Or do you think he would do better just jump right in, and the best way to learn is actual reps, and him starting for a team like the Falcons that have no edge rushers basically, and he could just start from day one?
No, I think I think it would be beneficial for him to go to a team that has like an established veteran as an edge rusher and learn from them, and maybe learn some additional moves, or learn from them just, what they do, or how they view looking at how offensive linemen set up and what they do to counteract that, to get around guys. And so he's not just that one trick pony that it's beating guys with his speed. So I do think that would be beneficial for him.
You agree, SC?
Yeah, I think someone like that, he's going to make his money off the speed, right? So he needs to understand that's not how it's going to work in the pros. Like, you're not just going to do it at that. You have to be technical, right? When you're against the line, as I said earlier, 6'7", 6'8" guys, you had to be able to maneuver around them because they know how to block. They may not be as fast as you, but these big boys can move, right? So he has to learn these little things here and there to make that difference, where having a veteran, it doesn't necessarily be someone that he has to sit behind, but he needs someone on the opposite side of him that can show him different things as well, to show how he can maneuver and like take the pressure off, because I think he's someone that he can get blocked at that next level. But once he understands how he properly needs to use his feet, where his hands need to be in certain areas, how to go across the defenders and get between the gaps even better or more effectively, that's where he'll benefit.
All right, guys, let's head over to tier 2. Joe, who do you got?
Yeah, in my tier 2, I've got Edgerrin Cooper, Peyton Wilson, and Dallas Turner.
I got Cooper and Jared Verse in my tier 2.
Okay, in my tier 2, I've got Dallas Turner and Byron Murphy. So I have Dallas Turner. Joe, you did as well. Here's my thing with Turner. And he looks like he's destined to go to the Falcons, which I don't know if I really like all that much, because I don't think he's going to get any help. He's another guy to me that his explosiveness just pops off the tape, but I think he lacks pass rush moves. I'm concerned. I don't know if he's going to be able to succeed in the NFL if he can't develop those other pass rush moves. I think a lot of times when you watch the tape, I think a lot of the stuff that he ended up being successful on was just, getting the chase down sack, honestly, because of his speed. So to me, I don't know. I'm mixed on the guy. I don't know. I mean, he's probably going to be the odds-on favorite to go number 1. I know you typically agree with me on this.
Yeah, you talking about me?
Yeah.
I do agree with you. I mean, I definitely have my concerns, but just his his athleticism and how quick his first step is, like if he does pan out, with that potential, I think he's definitely deserving to be in the tier 2. But I feel like it is risky because we've seen these guys like this before with the potential, and they just don't end up panning out. But just with his athleticism, I think he can figure it out.
Now, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead, SC.
No, I think he's I mean, as a top 10 pick, I don't think he's gonna be able to flop. I mean, especially if he's the focus
You don't
point.
think he's gonna flop?
No, if he becomes that top 10 pick, if he starts dropping, then it becomes okay. But I think Atlanta has to take him at this point, right? They've already kind of reset that offense, and he's someone that he can go in there and make that difference in year one, as far as just being an impact player for that defense and creating pressure. They got their secondary. Their secondary is pretty covered. They have some, aspiring linebackers and stuff, but having that pressure on the line with the fantasy means a difference. But he's going to add pressure to the quarterback by just closing the pocket up on them. That at this level, they're going to be forced to do something mistakenly where it's going to open them up even more, because they're going to try to avoid him or try to do something towards him, but yet he's so fast and so quick that he's able to track that ball. Watch him in the run game. I mean, that's where he's going to come out and shine, is just making sure he is getting those run stops effectively and getting those tackles there and possibly behind the line. And as I said earlier, tackles for loss, make a difference too. That's kind of, Edrin Cooper is my tier 2 there, and I feel he's slightly below Turner. I think you hit on some points earlier about him, but I think he's someone that can definitely change the game, in the avenue based on some big plays. Almost like a Clowney type of maneuver, where he's someone that he can make that big play and the whole game is completely different now. I think that's where Cooper comes in. We saw it at A&M. He was a guy that was a big part for them, and when he went down, their defense kind of struggled a little bit more. So you bring in Cooper like that, I think he can shine. And then Jared Verse, for my 2, is someone that I know a lot of people have him as their DL, defensive end 1 or edge rusher 1, whatever you will say. I have Latu at that, but Jared Verse is explosive off the edge. I just don't. I have him below Latu because I just see a little bit less of a work ethic, I guess you can say, from Verse. I feel there was games where it's like he just got shut down, and that's where I don't have him in my tier 1 here. But I think when he's successful, he's great. He's a top threat for you. But I think he's gonna struggle for some time here, so it's gonna take it. But once he actually gets to that next level and actually understands the game a little bit more, he's gonna be one of your top guys.
Now, Joe, you had Edrin Cooper in this tier as well.
Yes. Yep.
What was your thoughts on him?
Yeah, so I got him and Peyton Wilson on there. I mean, I like Peyton Wilson better than him. He's, Wilson would be my linebacker 1. But I like Edrin Cooper, and I like his ability to, as a blitzer, he's got speed as a linebacker as well. But, I also think he's got the ability to be off the ball and cover as well.
Yeah, one guy I'll talk a little bit more about Peyton Wilson here coming up, and you've already heard my thoughts on Edrin Cooper. But I'm a little surprised you guys aren't as high as I am with Byron Murphy. I mean, I understand defensive tackle is not the most glamorous position when it comes to IDP, but in defensive tackle required leagues, I think this guy's pretty exciting. I mean, he had the highest pass rush win rate for defensive tackles at 20%. Guy's got great penetration at the point of attack. And to me, he's got a great motor. I just think that he is going to be a really interesting player. And when you got a defensive tackle who has the ability to rush the passer, that's the key. If you could get one that can do that, then he can actually, give you some points in IDP. So I don't know. To me, I think he could be pretty exciting in the next level.
Yeah, I think he'll be a top defensive tackle for you, but most of it comes down to tackles for me and guys that can track the ball and get around. So I think that's where it comes in, where I'm going to see him more in the gaps, AB gap, whatever you want to say there, where he's just focused strictly on, between the what am I thinking of? Not the pylons, but between the
hashes.
There you go. I think that's where he's gonna be having to focus on. Kind of similar to those drills you see where like the player runs and they just have to get through and get the touchdown. Like you'll have the parents.
The gauntlet was it?
Yeah. So I think that's gonna be his main focus. So that's gonna be where it's down. Where if you have a guy running outside and stuff like that, he's not gonna be as effective as you, because you'll have other guys outside that can get the tackle.
All right, guys, let's round it out. What do you got in tier 1?
All right, in tier 1, I've got Jared Verse and Leatu Latu.
Oh boy.
Yeah, Leatu Latu and Dallas Turner for me.
Okay, for me, I've got Peyton Wilson at 3, Jerzon Newton at 2, and then 1 Jared Verse. So we've got some variety here. I'll talk about my guys here first. Jared Verse, I mean, I hear what you're saying, SC. He is my favorite IDP player in this draft. I don't know if it's close, but I think to me, he is the only guy within the pass rush group that I think has the possibility of having those 10-plus sack seasons on a repetitive basis. I think he has a full arsenal of pass rush moves. He can bull rush you. He has the quickness to get around the tackle. He just has an endless motor, in my view. Just be able to pursue the quarterback. So I really like Verse a lot. So for me, he's my number one guy. I think he shows everything on tape to me that would excite me, where I feel like Turner and Latu are kind of one-dimensional in my view, and for different reasons. Then I got Jerzon Newton. Now I know that I have him sky high compared to most people, but I think he, unfortunately, because of his injury that he's dealt with, I think his draft stock is absolutely plummeted. If he was healthy, he was able to perform at every checkpoint here in this draft cycle, I think people will be talking to him about him a lot higher. I think this guy is going to be an absolute steal, especially if he goes in the back end of the first round. Because I mean, you saw he was the Illinois defense. I mean, if you look at what he was able to do, and he's able to rush the passer, I think Newman is the type of guy he belongs, in my view, in the top 15. I don't think he'll get there because of all the injury stuff in the NFL draft, but I'm really excited for him. I think he could be, one of the next best defensive tackles in the league. So I'm a big fan of Newton. And then Peyton Wilson, I think this linebacker class is kind of weak for the most part, but Wilson reminds me a lot of the Jack Campbell rise. I think he might be the only linebacker that could get drafted in the first round. And for me, I think that Peyton Wilson does everything. He just doesn't do it in a way that makes you say ooh and ah. He's just there. He just does. He's the garbage pickup man. Right? He picks up the dirty work, cleans up, and goes to the next house. Right? It's nothing flashy, nothing crazy, but he does a great job with it. So I'm a big fan. So all right, hit me. What do you guys think?
No, to talk on Jerzon Newton about top 15. I mean, not a lot of times it's not much on the talent. It's just teams need help elsewhere. Yeah. Right. So that's why I think it doesn't come down to him being top 15, because the teams in that top 15 need help elsewhere to be able to make something impactful. So of course they would love him, but I think somewhere like if you go to LA Rams, I think that's a great fit, for him to just go out there and shine. Peyton Wilson, I love it. Like I said earlier, I think he's gonna be what people want Jack Campbell to be. That was me insinuating I think he can go in the first round, and the only linebacker that does go in the first round. Yeah. And then your last guy was Verse, right? Yeah. I think like Verse, I get why he's doing that. Everything you say about him, that's why I see about Latu. And I think Latu has that chip on his shoulder because of that injury we talked about previously, where it's like he has to go out there and showcase his all, because they know once he's done, then it's going to be like, oh, he's an injured athlete. But yeah, I think he's someone that can be very versatile, get his hands in the air, make some disruptions, just gets you all around points, outside of maybe an interception, but he could probably get that for you too. Turner, I just think Turner's going to be that guy. I think he's going to be someone that's going to be effective everywhere. That's going to be behind the line of scrimmage, getting a sack, behind the line of scrimmage, getting a tackle for loss. He's going to eat up a play. He's going to get an interception. He's going to fill up the stat boards, if you will. I just think he's going to be that explosive. And again, especially a team like Atlanta, if they take him, it's all on him on that line. So it's going to be like this is just him and only him. Granted, double teams can affect it, but he's someone that's so capable to understand how to run effectively against blockers and get through them, whether it be swimming around them, whether it be dipping his hits, whether it be doing a spin move. He does everything so well. I think that's going to be why he's so effective. Plus, he ran like a 4.46. I mean, this guy has some speed too.
Out of curiosity, just comparing to other passers, just to see where you're at. So you had Dallas Turner 1. And this will change depending on where he goes and everything, right? So this might be an early test here to go talk about this. Where would you slot Turner in comparison to Will Anderson, Kayvon Thibodeau, Aiden Hutchinson? So I'm trying to think of some most recent pass rushers that came out. I would say you would have Turner all after them, right?
He might go above Kayvon, but I think who you say, Will Anderson, and then Hutchinson definitely above him, but he may go above Kayvon. I mean, and that goes with me showing.
As an
With
Oregon Duck fan, I'm very surprised that you would say that.
But that goes with me seeing him in the league too, right? I just think
That's
Giants.
true.
It's hard to say he didn't come out until last year. Last year had a great season, but the years before that, it was like, all right, wait, where's he at? So that's where I might have him before that for him. But Will Anderson, I think, was better. But again, he learned from Will Anderson, right? He sat behind them, so that's something to take in consideration. This. We have a new head coach out in Alabama, so we kind of saw the end of an era, and he was the last of that, Saban era, to learn and take everything from as well. So I think you take that and you run with it, because this could be a long time before we see some more solid defensive players come out of Alabama.
Which would be sad in a way, but Joe,
Why
how
would that
about?
be sad?
Well, I just feel like Nick Saban. I mean, he's a legend. I mean, he's done so much for the game and how he's impacted these young men to be the stars that they are today. So, just a hole that is left behind. But same question to you, Joe. You've got Latu 1. What would Latu slot with those other top edge rushers that have been taken over the past few years?
Yeah, for right now, I mean, being that we haven't seen him play, I think I just, like SC said, put him ahead of Kayvon Thibodeau. You know how I feel about Thibodeau, not the biggest Thibodeau guy. He has, Thibodeau's really that feast or famine player, and I think Latu's got potential to be more consistent than that. And this is a change for me, Steve. I was with you with Verse as number 1, but after thinking on it and looking at things, I decided to go Latu number 1. I just feel like, he's very smooth. He's got quick hands. He's got the pass rush moves, and that's kind of, Jared Verse, I think, could take a little bit longer. Where Latu, I think he can instantly come in and hit the ground running and be an instant game changer, an instant producer at the IDP level for us.
So that does it for our top 10 rookie IDP Dynasty rankings with tiers. SC, thank you so much for joining the show today. Where can others find your great work?
Yeah, Brian, I appreciate you having me on. I always love talking ball. Hope to, come on again sometime. Maybe post-draft, talk about these guys again.
There you go.
Yeah, you can find me at the Fantasy Football Universe. I, myself, and Aaron St. Dennis, Jeremy Soman, and Jesse Mueller created that. We have over 100 Devi articles right now about some of these players in the draft for your 2024 rookies. I have a show on the CFB Nation called The O, where I talk about the Oregon Ducks. Go Oregon, and then you can also find me with the RPO Football, talking IDP there. And then on League Winners, I have a show on Thursdays now going live with Nino Brown and Andy Pham, where we talk about rising stars. So you get ready for your next college draft when that time comes.
Wow, there's a lot of content to be had there. So if you haven't checked any of those out, we encourage you to do so. Thank you so much for watching. We've got rookie running back dynasty rankings with tiers and wide receivers coming up in the next few episodes. You're not going to want to miss that. And then, of course, the NFL draft. I know we all cannot wait for that. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.